Aloha once again, my friends. I figure today I'm going to tell you about my heart chakra activation and how it had everything to do with a little baby squirrel. I ended up naming the big root, and she changed my life forever. Having your heart chakra activate will change your life forever. So I figure I'll tell you about that. It's pretty interesting. And let's just shed some light on the subject. I don't know, maybe we should just meditate. It's so conducive for meditation out here. Some amazing stuff happened yesterday. I don't know how many of you noticed some of the things in yesterday's video, but there were some pretty, excuse me, amazing things that happened. The one that kind of blew me away was, I think it's around the 20-minute mark. There's just a giant lion's head in the clouds. I could see it just clear as day, and I don't usually see stuff in the clouds. A lot of times it seems like reaching, to start seeing a bunch of things in the clouds, but I certainly could see the lion's head in the clouds. It was pretty cool. There was some other stuff too, but I'm sure some of you saw it, and then other people didn't see anything. They were like, "This dude's crazy." I'm sure, plenty of people said Jesus was crazy, Buddha was crazy, etc., etc. We're all crazy. Mama, we're all crazy now. But let's talk about squirrels, since we're on the nuts subject. And the way it happened was, I was coming out of my belief system, because I had a really, I was locked in on my beliefs, and some of you probably know it was Christian. I was a hardcore Christian, but I was like a kind of a radical Christian, I guess, because I had long hair, and I have a tattoo of the crucifixion. Well, not the 3 crosses. And I was into metal music. So I wasn't your typical Christian. Hey, there's Squirrely up there right now. God dog it. You little rascal. Get over here, you big rat. Get some peanuts. She's, I call her kind of nubs because she got the tip of her tail bit off earlier this year. Something happened to her. Daddy loves the baby squirrels. They're all baby squirrels to me. I call them all baby squirrels even though they're fully grown. Maybe she'll make her way over here and you guys can see her. She's so cute. Anyway, so I was not the typical Christian, but nevertheless I was hardcore. And so I was coming out of all of that. Oh, let's see her jump across. Do it. No. It's probably too far for you to see her, but that was cool. You could probably see her jump across. So as I'm coming out of the beliefs and coming to realize that it wasn't about beliefs, that I was coming to realize that somehow we had all been duped into believing things, and that those beliefs were actually holding us back, and kind of like I said yesterday, keeping us on a linear state of line of consciousness. And I was wanting to go further. I was wanting to know the deepest of the deepest truths. I was wanting everything. I was wanting it all. I did not want to be duped again. I did not want to fail again. And even though Christianity, did give me some good, I'm not going to say it's all bad, but it wasn't. I knew there was more to the story. I knew there was more to the story. And I knew that by searching out there in the world for the rest of that story, I was just going to find more parts of the story. And so I was kind of baffled, where can I find the rest of this story? And then, it began to dawn on me that the greatest secret of all, where would God hide the greatest of secrets? And I slowly began to realize that would be inside of us. And then I came to realize, and it's not in the mind, it's not something hidden in the mind, it's something hidden in the heart. And then I began to learn about thinking with the heart and the whole heart-brain connection. So let me get into the story of how. So I was, there she goes. I was, oh, that's not her, that's one of her babies. Well, maybe that one up there was her, but this one down here, there's one down here now. It is coming somewhat closer. You little rascal. I see you. I was doing gutter guards on a house, and my coworker kind of was like, "Oh, what the hell?" And I was like, "What's going on, dude? There's something in this gutter." Well, what is it? I don't know. I ain't touching it. All right, man. Let me climb up the ladder. So I climbed up the ladder, and I don't even know that I knew it was a squirrel at first. It was pink It was hairless. It was really tiny. And I said, well, we can't just leave it in here because we're going to seal it in. It won't be able to get out, and that'll be it. It'll be dead. It won't have a chance. So I got it and put it in a styrofoam cup. And there was some mulch, in the gutter that it was laying on. It was nice and warm, It was a good spot for an incubating squirrel. So we finished our job, the squirrel was in the cup, and took it home, and then I, did a little research. I was like, man, we're going to have to bottle feed this thing every few hours. And shout out to my daughter. She did a great job helping me to tend to the squirrel when I had to go to work or whatever. And she was the one that realized, this squirrel is too cold. This squirrel's not warm enough. So we need to get a heater, a heating pad, which we did. And so we, went through the tedious job of bottle feeding the squirrel every few hours and making sure she was as happy as she could be. And she began to grow up pretty quickly. And I remember the day, she was getting her fur starting to actually look like a squirrel. And I remember when her little eyes opened, it was just so cute. She saw Daddy for the first time. And I just love this little rascal so much. And I was coming to the knowledge that, in order for your heart chakra to activate, you have to keep your thoughts in love or good, or however you want to think of it. You have to keep them positive for 51% of the time or more. So you have to be above 50%. And it's going to be a different amount of time for each person. I assume that it probably has to do with karma too or whatever, but so I was working on that, I was working on trying to stay above 50%. And so as the big root was growing, I had a cage that I had in my room, a bird cage, and because I had cats too, so I had to be aware of that, because I didn't know, if the cats might try to hurt or something if they got in my room. So the cats didn't come in my room, and the cage, most of the time the cage was open, so she wasn't stuck in the cage, because I didn't want to take away her freedom fully, even though I kind of took away her freedom by taking her. But I had to take her because she wouldn't have lived. So she'd go in the cage to sleep and things like this. And then as she was getting older and everything, I would keep the cage open, and she would hide pecans all around my room and all that. And it was just really cool. And in the midst of this whole thing of raising this squirrel, my heart chakra did activate, and I was blown away during the whole time. I'm still blown away, and it's been, a few years now, by the whole experience. Like I said, it just really changed my whole life. And so as she got full-sized, I had made a place for her outside. We had this square, kind of a chicken coop, I guess it was, maybe. I don't know. It was just a square cage, similar to this thing in front of us here. It was about half that size, and the whole thing was about maybe 6 feet high, with the same kind of fence that you see here around the whole thing, and then a gate where you could go inside of it. But the top was open. So I put bird netting over the whole top of it. And then I set her up a place inside. Actually, inside got a big one of those big Tupperwares. And I built her a nice insulated, I got foam insulation. Basically what I did was I put a box inside of the Tupperware, and then around the edges I foamed it in with the foam so that it'd be insulated, and then made a cutout in the front so she could get all the way inside of it. And she could, she could get inside of the Tupperware and be outside of the box still, just to have more room to move around or whatever. And then she could go inside the box, and then her bed was in there and all her shredded up toilet paper and things like that. So anyway, she liked it. She liked it, but at first I could tell she was a little unsure of what to make of this, because she had basically grown up inside my room, and now she's suddenly outside. And I could just see her, the way she would look around at her surroundings and everything. I could just, tell she's just really thinking about, she was as blown away as I was. And so this enclosure thing I had her in, I knew she could get out of it if she wanted to. But my main thing was that other things can't get in it, so nothing could get after her while she's outside. And so she started exploring, and sure enough, she did get out of there. And then she hit the trees. There was like 3 pecan trees around right there, and it was next to some woods, kind of like here. There's a whole big area of woods right behind our house. And she would be exploring and getting in the trees and just having a dang good old time. She was just, becoming a squirrel. And this was maybe 6 or 7 months after I had her. And one day, a side note here, one day we were out there in the enclosure, and she'd run up my body like I was a tree, and she'd run around me and stuff, and it was just the cutest, funnest thing. Now, they do have super sharp claws, so it's like needles running around on you. And they'll scratch you up, and poke you up. Not meaning to, but their claws are just so sharp. But she got down on the ground and was digging around in the ground like squirrels do. And she got something, and then she came and crawled back up my body, and then I'd hold out my arm, and she'd walk down my arm. And she came down my arm to my hand. And I don't know if you've ever watched a squirrel when they bury their nuts and stuff. They have that little routine they do where they kind of, after they get it where they want it, they kind of give it some pushes to make sure it's in place, and then they cover it over with their little hands. It's so cute. Well, so she had dug up a little quartz rock, a little white piece of quartz, little pebble, and she came and she pushed that into my hand like they do when they're burying stuff. So she definitely made sure she was giving it to me, and that she wanted me to have that. And to this day, that's my most prized possession. And I actually put it on a necklace that I had made back in Arizona, where I met my wife. and I had made this necklace because we both worked at the same place. That's where we met. And so I had made this necklace out of a concrete nail years ago now. And so, I'd always had that necklace ever since then, handmade. And so I decided I'm going to put this rock on that necklace, which I did. So I have that on my necklace. And like I said, that's like my most prized possession of everything I have. This little tiny pebble on this necklace. And the whole necklace, I guess you could say, is my most prized possession. So she was obviously, growing up, and she would go exploring during the day. I couldn't just be with her all the time. I would be with her, every chance I could. When I was at home, I was with her. And so she was getting a little more explorative and things. And one day she was gone. And I was like a parent, I was like, oh man, she's not in her house. It's dark, it's getting dark. This is when they go to their house, where they sleep. And she's not here. And I was just like, I just had all these thoughts, and feelings. I was like, man, what if a hawk got her, or what if some of the other squirrels around here tried to run her off because she's not from around here, or just all these things I'm thinking, I'm thinking, did I do the right thing by letting her be a free squirrel and putting her outside? Maybe I should have kept her inside, and just, my heart was just really heavy with not knowing. So 3 days went by, and on the third day, she resurrected. On the third day, she showed back up, and I remember standing at my back door, because I'd always be looking out there for her. And then I see this squirrel out there messing around on the outside of that enclosure. And I thought, because I had seen a couple other squirrels, and I'd go out there, and it wasn't them. Because if a squirrel doesn't know you and you start to approach it, it bells. So they weren't her. So I'm standing there looking out the back door, I see the squirrel over there, and I said, well, it's probably not her, but maybe it is. I gotta at least go check. And so I start approaching it, and she sees me, and so she got on the post so she could hide herself as I'm walking up, And I'm walking slow, so I don't want to scare her. And, if it's not her, I'll make friends with any squirrel. But sure enough, man, she's seen me. I looked at her, and she started coming towards me. It's funny. I just see a squirrel right now coming towards me. And I think that, yep, that's the baby. She's mealing around here. Anywho, she started coming towards me, and I bent down, and she jumped up in my lap, and I was petting her, and she was rolling upside down, and that was like one of the most happiest moments of my whole entire life, because I knew she was okay. I knew she was alive. I knew, and here she was back. I could actually pet her and touch her and see her again, and I was just, I'll start crying right now if I think about it too much. But I did, I started crying, and I was just so happy. So what happened was, from time to time I would go out when she was staying outside. I would take the cat carrier into the enclosure and I would invite her to come back inside, come spend the night in the house. And so I never forced her, I never just tried to grab her and put her in there. But I would just tell her, hey, if you want to come, spend the night in the house and stuff, you got to get in this carrier. You got to get in the cat carrier so I can transport you in, because we had to get past the cats, right? So I invited her in that night, and she accepted. She got in the cat carrier, and I took her inside, and she stayed the night inside, and we just had fun as usual. And I was just so happy to just see her again, and just knowing that she was okay and everything. Well, that next morning, I put her back in the cat carrier and took her back out to her enclosure, and she immediately got out of the enclosure and got on the ground. Now usually she would just go straight to the trees, but she came over towards me, and we were walking. I started walking, she was kind of walking, and so we just walked together, and she hopped along the ground, and we walked along the tree line. And when we got to the end of the tree line, she went into the trees, into the woods, and the sun was up, and it was a beautiful day, and it was just beautiful. And I figured, well, she's gonna go do her thing, I better go do whatever I gotta do. So we parted ways, and I went to go do whatever I was doing, and that was the last time I ever saw her. So I think she was telling me, by coming back, she was letting me know, I'm okay. I'm a squirrel. I gotta go make my squirrel family. And the fact that she stayed on the ground and walked kind of next to me along the tree line instead of going straight to the trees was like her way of, telling me I gotta go be a squirrel now, and you you raised me, and I'm good. So so that just really, changed my life. And I've, been a squirrel nut since then. I mean, I always liked squirrels, but it's like my what do they call it? You know, your animal spirit, I guess, or whatever. And I must be a squirrel. I must like nuts. And in many ways, you know, I am a nut, I guess. But what does that even mean in a world of insanity in a lot of ways? At least, you know, the lower world. So you never know, man. You never know how they're gonna get to you. You just don't know how they're gonna get to you, but they're gonna get to you. If you want to wake up, you know, if you, like I said, this all stemmed from an active desire to know the truth, to know the rest of that story and find where it was hidden. And nobody told me, you know, nobody told me. There wasn't really, I wasn't into too many, you know, people, YouTube channels, whatever, that were, you know, talking about star seeds and light workers, and that was all kind of fringy stuff still. I mean, I probably wouldn't have understood what they were saying anyway. Uh, and my mind probably would have still been filled with too much judgment about things, you know, ready to just judge anything. Oh, they said one wrong thing I don't agree with, or they cussed, you know, or whatever, something. Whatever people use as blocks to not allow themselves to get the meat of the matter. So I just didn't know of too many of people like that, or messages that people have concerning all these spiritual things and